At 22, Noah Bennett believed the ocean had taken everything. It started 6 months after his father died. The family owned a small commercial fishing business that had survived for 3 generations. But Noah's older cousins controlled the company after the funeral. They blamed every financial problem on him. At the final meeting, his oldest cousin slid a document across the table. "You can sign this or fight us in court." Noah looked down. By signing, he gave up every claim to the boats, equipment, docks, and business his father had spent a lifetime building. "What do I get?" His cousin shrugged. "Freedom." An hour later, Noah packed a duffel bag into his father's aging fishing boat. It was the only thing legally left in his name. He decided to work alone. For nearly 3 months, he fished offshore, selling his catch to small coastal markets. He earned just enough to survive. Then the storm arrived. The weather report had predicted rough seas. Nobody expected a hurricane-force system to change direction overnight. By sunset, 40-foot waves slammed against his boat. The engine failed. The mast snapped. Radio communication disappeared. Noah tied himself to a floating section of the deck as another wave tore the boat apart. The freezing ocean swallowed everything. When daylight finally returned, he opened his eyes on a rocky beach. His boat was gone. His wallet, his clothes, his savings, everything. Only his father's old brass pocket compass remained tied around his neck. He struggled to his feet. Towering cliffs surrounded the isolated cove. Above them stood an abandoned house overlooking the sea. Its white paint had faded decades earlier. Broken windows stared toward the crashing waves. Part of the wraparound porch had collapsed. Yet the stone foundation remained solid. Noah slowly climbed the winding cliff path. The front door hung open. Inside, dust covered every room. Furniture remained exactly where someone had left it years before. A fireplace, bookshelves, an old wooden dining table. The place looked abandoned, not destroyed. Searching the kitchen, Noah found several unopened emergency food tins stored inside a dry pantry. Rainwater collected in an old cistern behind the house. Someone had prepared this place for survival. For the next several days, Noah repaired broken windows using driftwood. He patched sections of the leaking roof, cleaned every room, built fishing traps below the cliffs. Slowly, the forgotten house became home. One afternoon, an elderly lighthouse keeper named Elias climbed the path carrying fresh bread. "I've been watching you." Noah smiled cautiously. "I hope that's not illegal." Elias laughed. "Not around here." He slowly looked around the restored porch. "You've done more in 1 week than anyone has in 30 years. You know this place?" "I knew the man who built it." "Who was he?" "Captain Thomas Holloway. The sailor. The very one." Elias stared toward the ocean. He always believed this house protected something much greater than itself. "What?" He never told anyone. Before leaving, Elias quietly added, "People still ask about this property." "They do. More often than you'd imagine." The comment stayed with Noah. 3 days later, a black luxury SUV climbed the narrow coastal road. A sharply dressed man stepped out. "My name is Charles Mercer." He smiled politely. "My company would like to purchase this house." Noah looked around. "This abandoned place? We'll offer $4 million. Noah nearly laughed. "For this old cliff house?" "Cash." "No." Charles remained calm. "If you reconsider." He handed Noah a business card. "Call me." Then he drove away. 2 days later, another company appeared. Different representative. Different business card. Their offer reached $9 million. Again, Noah refused. Now he knew. The house wasn't valuable because of the building. Something hidden here mattered. That evening, Noah began searching carefully. Nothing. Old furniture. Cabinets. Floorboards. Attic. Basement. Everything appeared ordinary. Until he noticed something strange. The fireplace chimney sat perfectly centered outside the house. Inside, the fireplace stood nearly 4 feet farther to the left. He frowned. That shouldn't be possible. There had to be hidden space behind the stone chimney. He tapped the wall beside it. Solid. Then one section echoed differently. Hollow. His heartbeat quickened. Carefully removing several wooden wall panels, he uncovered a concealed steel door built directly into the stone chimney structure. An antique brass lock rested at its center. Hanging beside it was a waterproof leather pouch. Inside lay an old brass key, a folded nautical chart, and a handwritten note. Only 5 words appeared. "Trust the tide below." Noah unlocked the door. A deep metallic click echoed through the silent house. The hidden doorway slowly swung inward. Cold, salty air drifted upward. Behind it stretched a narrow spiral staircase carved deep inside the cliff. Far below the house. This can't be Rio. He grabbed a lantern. Every instinct warned him to leave. Instead, he climbed down. The staircase opened into an enormous underground chamber built directly inside the cliffs. Noah stopped breathing. Concrete walls. Steel support beams. Industrial generators. Climate-controlled archive rooms. Shelves packed with leather-bound journals. Historic nautical charts. Shipping records. Property deeds. Engineering blueprints. Rows of locked steel cabinets. This wasn't a smuggler's cave. It looked like a hidden maritime operations center. At the center stood an enormous oak table. One envelope rested there. Across the front, written in elegant handwriting, were 3 words. For Noah only. His hands shook. How could someone know his name? He carefully opened the envelope. The first sentence made his blood run cold. If you've reached this room, then the people trying to buy Holloway House have probably found you already. Trying? Why? Before he could read another line, a low engine echoed faintly overhead. Then another. Then another. He hurried toward an old security monitor mounted on the wall. The screen flickered to life. Outside the cliff house, 3 black SUVs had just stopped beside the front gate. 6 strangers stepped out carrying surveying equipment and locked aluminum document cases. They weren't looking toward the ocean. They were walking straight toward the hidden fireplace. Noah's heartbeat thundered. 3 black SUVs stood outside the cliff house. 6 strangers climbed out. None carried rescue equipment. None looked interested in buying an abandoned home. Each carried surveying instruments, radios, and locked aluminum document cases. They weren't searching for the house. They were searching for what had been hidden beneath it. Noah turned back to the letter. His hands trembled as he continued reading. If they've arrived, then they finally discovered what I spent 45 years protecting. He swallowed. The next sentence stopped him cold. This underground archive isn't your inheritance. Noah frowned. If the archive wasn't the inheritance, then what was? He continued reading. 45 years earlier, Captain Thomas Holloway had commanded commercial survey ships that charted the rugged coastline. During one expedition, he discovered something extraordinary. Not buried gold. Not pirate treasure. Not a forgotten shipwreck. He found one of the largest naturally protected deep-water harbors on the eastern coast, hidden beneath the cliffs and connected to the sea through a narrow underwater channel. Engineers confirmed it could someday become one of the safest commercial ports in the region. Shipping companies quietly realized the discovery would eventually be worth hundreds of millions. But developing it carelessly would destroy the fragile marine sanctuary surrounding the cliffs. Thomas refused every offer. Instead, he secretly purchased the surrounding coastal rights and transferred them into the Holloway Maritime Trust. Every hydrographic survey, every harbor engineering plan, every coastal property deed, every environmental study, every document exposing decades of fraudulent land acquisitions, everything remained hidden beneath the cliff house. The abandoned home had never been the treasure. It had protected the truth, waiting for the right person, waiting for Noah. A modern valuation report slipped from the folder. Estimated value of the Holloway Maritime Trust, $356 million. Noah stared silently. $356 million. Not because of the house. Because the trust controlled the protected harbor and surrounding coastal rights. Above him came heavy footsteps. The strangers had entered the house. Thomas's letter continued. The trust transfers only to the heir who restores the house before discovering its value. A smile slowly crossed Noah's face. Without realizing it, he had already fulfilled the condition. He repaired the roof, saved the house, built a life there without expecting anything in return. The next pages contained original deeds, harbor surveys, engineering reports, environmental agreements. Everything had been preserved with extraordinary care. Then he noticed another envelope. Smaller. Addressed simply. My grandson. He carefully opened it. Noah, if you're reading this, then the sea has probably tested you the way it once tested me. His eyes filled with tears. Your father never told you about our family because he believed hiding this burden would keep you safe. The people searching for these records watched every member of our family for decades. Noah finally understood. His father hadn't rejected the family. He had protected him. The letter continued. I followed your life from a distance. I knew when you repaired engines after school. I knew when you bought your first fishing boat. And when you chose honest work over easy money, I knew you were ready. Tears rolled down Noah's face. The final paragraph read, "You rebuilt shelter before searching for fortune. That is why this belongs to you." A voice echoed through the underground chamber. "The archive's been opened. Find the documents." Thomas's final instruction appeared beneath the signature. "Leave through the sea tunnel." A blueprint revealed the concealed exit behind the generator room. Noah quickly packed every journal, survey, deed, blueprint, and trust agreement into waterproof document cases. He hurried toward the rear of the archive. Behind several electrical panels stood a large steel wheel. He turned it. A section of the concrete wall slowly slid aside. A narrow tunnel stretched toward the ocean. Behind him, another voice shouted, "He's escaping." Without hesitation, Noah entered the passage. The tunnel descended gently until it reached a hidden sea cave. Inside floated a small maintenance boat tied to an old dock. Its engine started immediately. Thomas had prepared everything decades earlier. Noah guided the boat through a narrow channel beneath the cliffs. Minutes later, he emerged into open water beyond the hidden harbor. Waiting at a nearby marina office was a waterproof locker. Inside sat a satellite phone, fresh batteries, and one final envelope. Thomas had planned every step. Inside rested attorney Catherine Ellis's business card. Below it, one handwritten sentence read, "Call immediately." Noah picked up the satellite phone. Catherine answered before the second ring. "Noah Holloway, you expected me? We've been preparing for your call for 22 years. She explained everything. Thomas had legally established the Holloway Maritime Trust decades earlier. The moment Noah recovered the original archive, ownership transferred automatically. At exactly the same time, encrypted legal notices were delivered to maritime authorities, environmental agencies, land registries, and financial crime investigators. The people searching the Cliff House weren't property investors. They represented shell corporations that had spent decades trying to illegally obtain the coastal rights. Thomas's archive documented everything: forged deeds, corporate bribery, illegal property acquisitions, money laundering, hidden ownership structures, every fraudulent transaction. Within days, search warrants were executed. Corporate offices were raided. Executives were arrested. Fraudulent coastal claims were canceled. The Holloway Maritime Trust retained permanent ownership of every protected shoreline parcel. Months later, marine engineers confirmed Thomas's original vision. A carefully designed harbor could safely support fishing vessels, rescue boats, and research ships while preserving the surrounding marine sanctuary. Reporters expected Noah to sell immediately. Instead, he surprised everyone. He approved only environmentally responsible development. The abandoned Cliff House became a maritime history museum overlooking the sea. A marine rescue station was built inside the restored harbor. Royalty income funded scholarships for young fishermen, coastal conservation projects, and emergency housing for people who had lost everything to storms at sea. Exactly the kind of help Noah had once desperately needed. Every evening, he returned to the porch where his new life had begun. The ocean still crashed against the cliffs below, but now it no longer reminded him of everything he had lost. It reminded him of everything he had survived. Most people believe Noah became wealthy because he found a secret hidden beneath an abandoned cliff house. That wasn't the real story. The house wasn't the treasure. The underground archive wasn't the treasure. Even the Maritime Trust wasn't the greatest inheritance. Thomas Holloway left his grandson something far more valuable: the courage to rebuild after disaster, the wisdom to protect the sea that had shaped their family, and the reminder that sometimes the place where you lose everything becomes the place where you finally discover who you were meant to become.